There's an elephant in the room. The room is Ferrari's garage, and in this case, the elephant is Sebastian Vettel. So after the 70th anniversary Grand Prix this weekend, things didn't go well for Seb. Things haven't been going well for Seb for about a year and a half now. And this weekend, I think, was a very amplified version of that, but the aftermath of it is we are now talking about the possibility of Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari parting ways before the 2020 season is over. So I want to take a quick look at his career with Ferrari through 5 Grand Prix of each season, just to see how bad the start to 2020 has actually been, and maybe discuss would it make sense for these two parties to part ways and allow someone else to maybe come into Ferrari and finish out the season. So first up, Sebastian Vettel joins Ferrari in 2015. This is a really great signing for Ferrari at the time, coming off of his career at Red Bull, where he looked fantastic, was fantastic. So in his first 5 Grand Prix in 2015, he finds the podium right away, finds a win in his second Grand Prix, finishes 3rd, 5th, and 3rd. So his first 5 races at Ferrari are totally fine. The relationship looks pretty good. We're off to a great start. 2016 gets a little bumpy. He finishes 3rd, has a did not start, gets a 2nd, then has a retirement, and then finishes 3rd. So 3 podiums in his first 5 races. I would say not as good as his first year, but it's still okay. 2017 is the year where it looks like this partnership is finally going to fire on all cylinders. Starts off with a win, a 2nd, a win, a 2nd, and another 2nd. So Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari are looking fantastic right now. And I think for a lot of people in 2017, they thought that he was going to win the championship that year. Mercedes had something to say about it. And unfortunately for Seb, he doesn't reach the top of the mountain there. But everything was going very well for Ferrari at this point. And in 2018, it looked like it was going to be more of the same. He starts off with 2 wins. But then it starts to fall off a little bit with an 8th, a 4th, and a 4th. And Lewis Hamilton kind of just ran away with it. And unfortunately for Seb, he doesn't get close again. But 2019 and 2020 are where things start going pretty poorly, and we can see in the first 5 races. So 2019 was hyped up to be the year that Seb was finally going to do it. I remember going into that season last year, everyone thought that maybe Red Bull, but definitely Ferrari had a chance of finally knocking off Mercedes and preventing Lewis Hamilton from scoring another title win. It doesn't start off that way. Lewis comes off really well with Bottas, splitting those first 2 Grand Prix. Seb comes off with a 4th, a 5th, a 3rd, a 3rd, and a 4th. And this would be the groundwork for what would be a relatively mediocre season for Sebastian Vettel. He had some races where he had a collision with Lewis Hamilton, and they penalized him. That cost him a win. And he finishes 2019 with just 1 win. And meanwhile, Charles Leclerc is going to outperform Vettel in both 2019 and so far in 2020. Leclerc gets 2 wins in his first year with Ferrari and finishes ahead of Sebastian Vettel in the standings. And in 2020, it has just been a disaster. An absolute disaster. 10th, retirement, 6th place, 10th, and a 12th. Retirement was Charles Leclerc's fault. But if you go back to 2019, these 2 drivers are going to have a lot of issues being teammates together. And they're going to have a lot of collisions with each other. In this case, Charles Leclerc ran into Vettel, ruined Ferrari's day, but took total ownership of it. Other than that outlier there, Leclerc has managed to podium twice, and could have been 3 times yesterday, and has just outperformed Vettel in practice, qualifying, and race conditions every single race. And even to the point when they had a collision there, which was very early in that race, that weekend, Charles Leclerc still looked better than Vettel. So there's no doubt that when you take a look at season 2015, 16, 17, 18, and even 19 compared to what's going on in 2020, this isn't sustainable. You cannot have Ferrari having a driver that's qualifying 12th and having these type of results on a week-in, week-out basis. It's not good for the driver. It's not good for the team. So let's take a look at the issues in 2020 so far. In May, Ferrari announces Sebastian Vettel will be leaving. And I think at the time when this news came out, it was shocking for everyone. It obviously created an early silly season. You got Ricciardo quickly signing with McLaren after Carlos Sainz was announced as a replacement driver at Ferrari, who would be taking over Seb's seat next year. And we're still feeling the effects of that. What I don't think anyone thought was that this was Ferrari asking to not re-sign Vettel, but rather maybe Vettel taking a look at 2019, seeing the results, seeing the focus being on Charles Leclerc, and making a decision to get out of this seat and not wanting to be a second driver, or at least 50-50 with someone else at Ferrari. Sebastian Vettel feels like he's good enough, and his career has shown that he's good enough to be a number one somewhere. And that was challenged right away in 2019. However, in July we find out Ferrari didn't want to resign Sebastian Vettel. They took a look at their 2019, what they had with Charles Leclerc, and decided Sebastian Vettel was not in the best interest of Ferrari. And when you take a look at this, it looked like they were headed where they wanted to go in 2017 and 2018, but he didn't win a title. And fair or unfair, Mercedes is what it is, and they are dominant, beyond dominant, in these last few years. There's an argument that Sebastian Vettel should have won one of those titles. And if you look at the full season of that, I don't think it's an unfair argument that Seb didn't get it done there. And likewise, neither did Ferrari. And they're taking a look at this as we've had 5 full years and we're in our 6th season. And they said they've had enough and they want to try and go with the younger talent. And that's okay. And when we're looking at what Ferrari's going through right now, it's not a bad time to have a couple young drivers sign for a few years, because it's probably going to be a few years before Ferrari is back up competing for titles. And Sebastian Vettel isn't really at an age at 33 where you want him kind of going through the racing equivalent of a rebuild. Later in July, it's announced that Sebastian Vettel is in talks to join Aston Martin Racing. Racing Point will be Aston Martin next year. And I think that a little before this, but around that time, we start seeing Sebastian Vettel's effort at the racetrack go down too. He's not practicing well. He's qualifying very poorly. And his race results aren't there. So there's a bit of accusations on both sides. In August, yesterday, Sebastian Vettel accuses Ferrari of bad pitch strategy. You've messed this up, he says on the radio. And what he's referring to there is Ferrari pitting him in a situation where he came out behind a lot of cars. He comes out in traffic. It's going to require him to do a lot of overtakes. His lap speeds are down because of it, and he felt that didn't give him a chance to at least get up in the points. And has accused Ferrari now a couple times this season of favoring a pitch strategy that benefits Charles Leclerc at the cost of his performances. And I don't think he's totally wrong. I don't think it's 100% as bad as he's making it seem, but I don't think you can deny it. And why wouldn't they? Charles Leclerc signed for Ferrari for a few years. Sebastian Vettel will be out of this team next year. This is no different than Lando Norris outperforming Carlos Sainz right now. The one outlier maybe is Ricciardo doing a little better in Esteban Ocon, but when you have a driver who's a lame duck driver sitting in that seat, of course you're going to prioritize the driver who's going to be with your team for a little while. This is being amplified by Ferrari not running well. Ferrari's equipment and their power units are nowhere near what they were last year, but Leclerc has found a way to podium twice and have a 4th, whereas Vettel has been nowhere near it. And when you add in all these other issues and distractions in that garage right now, from the announcement of this divorce, which has been an ugly divorce so far, to Vettel working on deals with other teams, possibly joining Racing Point, Aston Martin next year, and now you're having issues with your team and strategy complaints and feeling that you're being maybe not favored, because you wouldn't be favored here, but not be given the same respect or opportunity as your teammate. This is an ugly situation. We're only 5 Grand Prix into the 2020 season, which will be a shortened season, of course, and with everything that's going on in the world right now, this is a very abnormal season. But what benefit does Ferrari or Sebastian have by maintaining this for the rest of the year? And how long do you keep this toxic atmosphere up? Does it benefit anyone to have a very unhappy Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari garage every single week? And does it benefit Ferrari to have one of their 2 drivers being off the pace, unhappy, and unmotivated in that race car right now, and on top of that, actively criticizing the team? Right or wrong, I can't see that being a sustainable partnership for the remainder of the season. In my opinion, I think it makes a lot of sense for these two parties to part ways right now, or maybe after the Spanish Grand Prix. And you can bring in another driver to Ferrari right now. You've got Nico Hülkenberg hanging out there, but you also have a bunch of, he's kind of in the Mercedes garage right now and kind of on their radar, but you have other drivers you can bring in right now, or even maybe promote someone and give them an opportunity. Fittipaldi comes to mind as someone that maybe you can give an opportunity. You can have a young driver in there with a positive attitude that won't care about having terrible results with lesser equipment because he's getting a shot to drive a Ferrari in Formula One. And that positive attitude in there can really help Charles Leclerc focus and not have to worry about team drama with his teammate. And for Sebastian Vettel, it frees him up to clear his mind, put this mess behind him, and focus on 2021 with a new team. I just don't see how you continue with Vettel and Ferrari together for the remainder of this year the way things are going. Now, maybe both parties can figure out a way to come together and come up with a way of maintaining that relationship for the remainder of 2020. But why? I don't know if it's possible, and I don't know if it's in the best interest of each party. So I actually think you're going to see Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari part ways in the next couple weeks. I don't be surprised if that happens. I think he'll still be there for the Spanish Grand Prix, but the next time we have a 2-week break there, I could see that being the official divorce and parting ways of these two parties. What do you think? If you just stumbled across this video, please hit like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments if you do come across it. Do we think Sebastian Vettel is going to remain at Ferrari for the remainder of the year? Do you think he should? And do you want him to? So, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.